Oh, it's the. Welcome to the beautiful city of Athens, the gateway to the Tennessee Valley, a city rooted in deep community relationships and built on a rich tradition of small local business and the very best of the human spirit. As Athens embraces the future, the signs of progress are in full bloom. Join us as we discover the bright spots in this charming southern city that we call home. This is Hometown Heartbeat, Athens. What's going on, everybody?
Hey,
How's
everyone.
everybody doing? It is, I've lost count of the days, maybe 15 of 14. Hey, Connor's still there. Hey, Connor. That's our producer, Connor, who is quarantined at his house, but we figured out a way for him to remotely produce the show. So he is still here with us in voice, even if not in person. So, Connor, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Hold up in the quarantine.
Hold up in the old quarantine.
Well, give us a review of how your Zoom classes are going with your
Zoom
teachers.
classes?
Yeah, like with your teachers.
She what? Not Zumba. Zoom. Zumba's the dance
with your
exercise
teachers. How is it like being a student online now?
So far so good. It's more longer assignments
thing.
with more review afterwards instead of shorter, bursts.
Well,
Yeah.
that sounds like a blast. Nothing like starting a live stream when people are trying to watch, and you go to a caller first, and then the two hosts are just sitting there listening and nodding, like, yep, yep. Oh,
I'm sorry. I should have asked before the stream.
yep. Oh, longer? Oh, okay. No, I'm just kidding. Connor, thank you so much. Connor is out and now producing, but we are in the middle of it today, boys. Maggie says, hey, Zach. Well, hey, Maggie, how are you today? It's good to have you with us. And again, if you guys are, depending on where you're watching this from, depending on where we get if we're going to get your comments, go to the Bearded REI page if you want to be on the main stream, and that'll allow us to interact with your comments. But, Molly, big news today, huh?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay positive.
Big news today. So in case you're curious, I'm sure it will come as much of a surprise. Molly was a big supporter of one Bernie Sanders. We forgave her for that early on. Still hired her even through that. And I'm kidding. And
I disclosed it after I was hired.
she did. That's true. But she had a bumper sticker on her car, which kind of gave her away. Dead giveaway there. But no. So it looks like he's pulled out of the race.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna be able to.
He's not.
Yeah.
The answer to the question is he's gone forever.
It's 2024.
Like Aaron Hernandez.
I mean, he'd be 80.
He'd be like 104.
Well, he'd be Biden's age, basically. So.
Oh, we got left on left
Apparently,
contact.
There's no age cap, apparently.
Oh, goodness. This is I'm just going to sit here and let you talk.
You
for
and
a
I
while.
need to run. Like,
Oh, yeah, that'd be a great idea.
we'd be like the centrist party. Like,
We would be the centrist party? Or were you putting us in the same boat now? I want everyone that
No,
I want everyone
I
out
think
there to hear her putting us in the same boat.
in ideal situation, you'd have like two people in office
That hate one
One's-
another, that have absolutely
that have to
nothing
work
in
together.
common. That typically goes well because divorce isn't a thing.
I mean, like government, they don't have to be married. They're just like they have to work together. It's like Congress, but at a
idealism is a dangerous thing. So these loans that we talked about yesterday, we kind of dove into them again a little bit again today. It seems as though they've dropped some new guidelines for them. As of today,
Yep.
and some more banks are participating. And so it looks like it's going to be one of those things that you are going to work with your local bank. You are going to use those relationships. But we talked to our banker today, and it was one of those things where it was like, probably going to be a little more red tape than we thought there was going to be. It's probably going to be a little more difficult. It's probably not going to be as good, yada, yada, yada. So at the end of the day, I find myself, very disinterested in anything to do with the government right now because it's become a game of political volleyball rather than dealing with the crisis at hand. And so I circle back to basically what happens on the 1st of May is going to dictate a tremendous amount of the rest of this, I don't know, this situation, this whatever. And so I'm really, really curious to see what happens with that. We got a bunch of people joining us. Kevin Grove, what's up? Steve Cogdale, what's up, buddy? That's a throwback there. I hope you're doing well. Melissa Posey, hi. I hope you're good. So what are we going to talk about today? Because we kind of came on here and just winged it a little bit. So do I need to go to like headlines on like CNN, you think? Or
I could tell you a quote from the WHO head of the World Health Organization took aim at President Trump's criticism of the agency on Wednesday, telling him, if you don't want many more body bags, you should refrain from politicizing it. Please quarantine politicizing COVID.
Oh my
WHO director Dr. Tedros.
Who is right? Who in the world is talking? Because it's not anybody credible. Because that's a joke.
He's the director, apparently.
That doesn't mean a thing. Look at politics at the highest level. Jokesters everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's the jester's court. And so at the end of the day, everything's become so politically charged. You can't take anything anyone says for what it's worth, for truth, for anything. It's just a big freaking.
Well, it's ironic.
It's a big power grab and money grab for everyone, and that's both sides. That's everybody. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. It says the unity of your country will be very important to defeat this dangerous virus. Without unity, we assure you that any country that may have a better system will be in more trouble. That is our message.
Let's talk about Sweden while we're at it, because we're going to talk about a better system. Connor, pull up. There's an article. If you just type in Sweden and COVID, from the National Review, it says how Sweden found the right solution to the coronavirus. Okay. And he might not be able to share this because we're using a remote thing. If not, it's no big deal. But let me sum it up for you. It says lots of people are rushing to discredit Sweden's approach, which relies on a more calibrated precaution and isolating only the most vulnerable than on imposing a full lockdown. While gatherings of more than 50 are prohibited, high schools, colleges are closed, Sweden has kept its borders open as well as preschools, grade schools, bars, restaurants, parks, and shops. And so basically, if you go look at their numbers and you go look at their infection ratios and you go look at all these things, and again, I'm not sitting here saying this is the right thing to do. I just realized we got wires sitting in the way. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's even the correct approach. But what I am saying is it sure is an interesting approach that was worth considering. It's worth looking at. Hold on.
I feel like we talked about this last week and a half ago, where we talked about the fact that Sweden gets 60% of their
60%
citizens
of their what?
Wages.
I'm not. Let's not get carried away. Okay, we're not talking about any of the other things that happen in Sweden.
The reason why they're doing it, yeah.
I'm just talking about the approach and how it's worked. I don't give a rip about their taxes. I don't give a rip about their health care. I'm just talking about their approach to this virus. I'm really scared about what happens if we don't take a similar approach coming up here, if I'm being honest with you.
But they don't have a death toll numbers out yet?
I mean, yeah, they're out there. They're out there. Where's your computer? 401 reported COVID deaths in Sweden. There has not been a single pediatric ICU case. And they are, let's see, 80% that are deceased or have underlying conditions. Oh, yeah. Yeah, here you go. Sweden's ICU census is updated every 30 minutes.
Oh, good.
Admissions to every ICU in the country are flat or declining. Whoa. Stat bomb. Truth bomb. I'm just saying. I
don't know a lot of people that are traveling to Sweden from Asia, but they're definitely traveling to the U.S.
But what does it have to do with anything?
The reason that we had it was because people were coming from China into New York
But once
City.
you have it, it's here.
Oh, you're saying
so
that
that's
the
irrelevant.
fact that Sweden has it should
yes,
in theory be spreading.
Absolutely.
So why isn't it spreading? I guess this is a good question to ask.
That's the point. That's the whole point.
I know.
Because herd immunity is
okay.
all right. Let me pull up.
That's why?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got to. Hold on a minute. I'm about to whip out some truth right here. But that would
entail them all becoming sick and then all
recovering.
No,
not necessarily. Again, it goes back to if 85 or 86% of the people that carry it are asymptomatic, which is numbers they're talking about potentially seeing, then it would mean that get infected, have it, move on because you're asymptomatic, you're a carrier. If you isolate those that are at risk so they don't die, then what are you doing? You're it's like the flu. It's like the flu. It's a seasonal disease. It comes and it goes.
You know what I read this morning that I thought was interesting was
The manifesto.
No.
Nope.
The that they were saying they're coming out with new data that shows that African Americans are more susceptible to the symptomatic or like the symptoms of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like they are 80% more prone to having exacerbating symptoms of COVID-19 compared to Caucasian people.
What does that have to do with anything?
No, Sweden, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably mostly Caucasian.
Come on.
No, I'm just saying. Like, I'm trying to come up with reasons that
You're trying to defeat sound logic with BS is what you're trying to do.
No, I'm just proposing reasons why they
I would
may
hardly
have lower
say that
numbers.
was a proposal.
You have to speculate on all the reasons that they may have lower
No,
numbers.
I don't want to speculate on anything.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
No, we were pontificating a system that they're not speculating anything. They're doing it. They're rolling it out. They're implementing it. It's happening. The numbers are real.
I agree. There's nothing wrong with
So
what
here's
they're doing.
so
I'm
here's
just saying I'm wondering why their numbers are lower.
well, it's certainly not because they're white. Kurt Witkowski, who's a PhD, he is an epidemiologist. The unprecedented policy of mass quarantine to, quote, flatten the curve is only prolonging the quarantine pandemic. The virus could be, quote, exterminated within weeks if people were allowed to leave normal lives and the vulnerable were sheltered until the virus passes. The former head of Department of Biostatistics, Epidemiology, and Research Design at Rockefeller University in New York City. Wow, what a mouthful. What people are trying to do is flatten the curve. Quote, I don't really know why, he said in an interview with the press and the Public Project that was featured in the College Fix. But, what happens is if you flatten the curve, you also prolong it to widen it. It also takes more time, he explains.
Yeah.
I don't see a good reason for a respiratory disease to stay in the population longer than necessary. The only thing that stops respiratory diseases is herd immunity. So, if that's the case, if the only way to stop respiratory diseases is herd immunity, why are we not getting after some herd immunity in a hurry? Right? It would make sense if
I agree.
Again, if we're going to say that the only way to stop a respiratory disease is herd immunity, then what we need to be doing is we need to be infecting people so they can be getting herd immunity so we can go back to work. Otherwise, it's going to be freaking Mad Max and Thunderdome.
Because then when we do wait, it's just going to be
bingo. It's still going to happen.
like the purge.
Still going to happen.
Yeah.
It's still going to happen. That's the thing. Like if you don't, if a respiratory disease that requires herd immunity doesn't go through the population and herd immunity doesn't happen, then guess what? It's going to come back.
It's like a bubble kid, you
Bingo.
know?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm crazy. Am I crazy?
No.
Everybody out there, drop a comment. Am I crazy? If you know me,
No.
am I crazy? Put a comment in here about the craziest thing you've ever seen me do, except for Steve Cogdale. You shouldn't do that. You've seen too much. But no, I mean, look, I'm not trying to be unrealistic. I mean, somebody make a comment for the love of God. Somebody say something. Anyway, so enough about, well, I say that. We'll probably go back to the coronavirus here shortly because that's, I was listening to somebody on the radio this morning. They were talking about it, and they were like, I lied. It wasn't the radio. It was a podcast. Because nobody listens to the radio anymore. They're talking about, like, we don't want to be constantly talking about the coronavirus. We don't, like, that's not. But then again, like, what do you talk about? Like, it's consuming our world right now. Literally, the world. So how do you change, shift paths, go to
I don't know. I started listening to this new podcast called
What's it called?
The Atlanta Monster.
I've
And
listened to the other one.
okay.
The
What's
Monster
other
DC
one?
Sniper.
Okay, no, I've listened
I
to
lived that.
two
so.
episodes, and it's West Atlanta. There was this guy in the late 80s that was kidnapping and killing young black kids, and it's really interesting just because there was a lot of politics, unfortunately, that went into play of why things weren't getting solved. And I'm only 2 episodes in, but I think you would like it. It's pretty. I mean, just because we're not
I've
very
started
far.
it.
We're not very far from Atlanta. And when I lived in Auburn, we were only like an hour from Atlanta. And where it happened, it was the West Atlanta, so I was even closer to it then. So I definitely feel like we should get listening to a podcast so we can talk about that instead. Or look into local crime. There was these 3 people that got arrested. I think it was yesterday around 3 p.m. They got pulled over. People were concerned that the local police department in Huntsville were starting to pull people over.
No, they're not.
They're not. Those people had out-of-state license plates, and then when they went to pull them over, they ended up in a car chase. And then when they finally got the car, they found all sorts of
drugs.
Yeah.
Connor, put the comment up from Kelly Gibson. That's a family member of mine, where she said most people on ventilators will die and they don't know how to treat it. And I would say that, Kelly, that you're right. That's where we started. But certainly now, the numbers that are coming out, and I was trying to type and find them and I will get them and post them here, but the number of people, again, understand that the thesis that we're making here is that you need to take those who are at risk and put them on the shelf, lock down nursing homes. And that's this article that I'm referring to right here. Let's see here. 80% of the people need to have contact with the virus, and the majority of them won't even have recognized they were infected. So if that has to happen, right? So here it is. It's very important to keep the schools open and kids mingling to spread the virus, said Witkowski. At the same time, and here's the part, Kelly, that I think you're talking about. The elderly should be separated from the nursing homes. The elderly should be separated and the nursing homes closed. And so certainly we aren't saying by any stretch, or I'm not, because I don't know how much her and I agree on this, but what I'm not saying is that we should just turn everybody loose, run rampant, and see what happens. Like that's not ever the goal, because all life is precious, and we don't want to get us in a point, like we don't want to get to a point where we're choosing money over life or yada yada yada. But what we do have to absolutely take on is the fact that the economy as we know it is changing every minute that things are left like they are. We're not going to get something back that is gone that we had when we started this thing. And so time is of the essence both ways. And so I don't know, it's a tough call. I don't want to be the one trying to make the decisions. I know that.
I would agree. That's a good, we're going to have to open up sooner or later. And I don't know if the results are going to be any different if we open up now versus up later. But more than the actual virus itself, and we've talked about this, I worry about the psychology of it, just because people are acting differently because of the virus due to fear.
Word.
And is that going to change in a month, in 2 months, in a year? Or are we still going to have people, people are generally, the American culture and the American society is stressed. People in the U.S. are stressed before all of this. And now that people are in financial hardship and, I don't know, now they're more socially distant than they ever were from strangers, I just wonder how this will shift, or if this will shift the American culture at all.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely going to shift the American culture. There's no doubt there's going to be a huge shift in the way things happen. And I'll probably use hand sanitizer like 15 times a day for the rest of my life. High five. That's a safe high five right there, folks. Look, at the end of the day, you can't get back what you gave away.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Right?
That's
and so as a country, we've given away a ton. We were looted, is the word I would use. When the stimulus bill was being negotiated, people on both sides took the opportunity to take a moment of vulnerability for the American people and loot us as if you would in a hurricane or in Katrina or whatever. And by doing that, what I mean by looting is it's not party specific. It's not it's anything that was inserted into the stimulus bill that had nothing to do with stimulating the economy. Anything that wasn't directly associated to COVID-19, its response and the stimulus that followed, we were looted. There's no other way to put it. And when I say what we can't get back, what we've given away, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This is being used in a lot of ways as a political opportunity by everyone who wants power and money, who has the opportunity to do it, to gain those things. Mm-hmm. And again, it's not a one-sided thing. It's not a whatever. I could find fault on both sides, but I can say that this is it's unbelievable what we're dealing with. And as a small business owner, mm-hmm. I worry. I worry what the small business landscape will look like when we all come back. What will it look like?
It sounds like it's going to be a monopoly. Is what it seems like.
Seems like we're going to help the big business and Right. Let it ride. I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a doctor.
Thomas and I were talking about maybe to resolve this. I don't know. My husband. We were thinking about ways that you could put more like regulations on senators and congressmen and get more money out of politics, so to speak, so that they can't, or they have no incentive to put in these little, self-serving plans. But I don't know. We're going to have to look into that. How can we put more regulations on individuals in Congress and, in the Senate? Can you require that they don't take money from super PACs? Can you require that they don't invest in stock? I mean,
nope.
They're the ones making the laws. So when we talk about balance of power,
but a lot of those are in a blind trust. Like here's the thing. I've seen so many headlines over the last couple of weeks that say Senator so and so was found to have.
Right.
That's because their assets are in a blind trust, and I would have made the same moves they made without insider knowledge. A lot of people did. Smart money did.
Wait, what do you mean?
Okay, so for instance, all right, so let's break this down. So if you are a senator like President Trump, for instance, all of his financial assets are placed into a blind trust when he takes the oath of office, okay? He has no control over his stock portfolio, over any of his companies. Financially, he can't touch anything. It is all managed through a blind trust by someone outside of that household for the purposes of keeping the corruption away. Same thing with senators. Same thing with. So when they make a stock move and they're like, "Oh God, made me so mad." So and so dumped $100,000 worth of stock in fill in the blank right after he told the American people that coronavirus was coming. Like, okay, yeah, stock was dumped all over the world. You know why? Because smart money dumped stock because the stock market was fitting to tank. I'm talking about.
So you're saying he didn't know about it?
No, he didn't know about it. It's in a blind trust, and that's what people don't even understand.
Yeah,
it's
like that's not publicized. It's not,
it is. No, it absolutely is. It just depends on where you look for information.
Yeah, it really does.
Because it's easier to make someone upset about what's going on without the information. If you knew that senators and presidents and all these people, both sides, and hey, Trump lovers, I'm talking to you too. Both sides, the money is in blind trust. Now, are there ways for that to be circumvented? You could be corrupt at every level, at everything, all the time. Doesn't matter. You could find a way to be corrupt. But the lion's share of people in public service, in office, have their assets in a blind trust. They have to. So that pretty much negates anybody's. I mean, yeah, they dumped the stock in the retail store, the big box store. You know why? Because they were fixing to shut the country down. And everybody that is halfway smart dumped stock. I would have if I had any.
So
you should have if you did.
So you don't think? Well, I think there should be money out of politics, but
sure, but how do
ways?
you do it?
Yeah, because it's the people in that position.
What's up, John Mangini? Hey, Nana. Hey, girl. That's my Nana.
That are
she said hi.
Hi, Nana.
Hey, Nana.
That are getting that money that would have to make the laws to regulate themselves. So we talk about the executive branch, the legal branch, and
we
the
about to have a
legislative
Ooh, I
branch.
love it. Government lesson. Yep.
What are the three branches again?
Stay close to your microphone. When you get back here, I can't hear you.
I just don't want to loud laugh into people's ears. Okay, help me out. Executive branch.
Yep.
Legislative branch.
Yep.
What's the third one? Judicial.
Yep.
Okay, so one of those branches has to balance the power of the legislators.
But that is the legislators. How you do that?
Right. So I think it needs to be some sort of Supreme Court.
There is a Supreme Court.
No, Supreme Court decision to not allow the legislators to have, extra money that influences their policies.
as we move into La La Land, which
I'm curious what you think.
Molly and I have this conversation on a regular basis, and I've never been so refreshed to work with somebody before, because honestly, and I I mean this, sincerely. I'm not this is not a joke. Idealism is something that you hold on to for a long time, and everybody goes through a phase in their life where it's and I'm not don't hear me talking, you and I, where I'm coming from.
I know where you're coming from.
And so there becomes a point when you learn that the system's broken, and you learn that it's corrupt, and you learn that, and pragmatism takes over, and then it's okay, yeah, you're right, money needs to get out of politics. I'd love to figure out a way to make that happen, but guess what?
Yeah.
It ain't gonna happen.
You just think about it hard enough and long enough, maybe you'll figure it out. Don't you think?
No.
How do changes happen?
Changes don't happen in our government.
They do.
No, they don't.
I mean,
name the last one that was big.
Gay marriage.
It wasn't changed. I mean, it wasn't changed. It was changed. It was legislated there was a straw decision at a legislative level, but it wasn't enforced anywhere because states still get to choose what they want.
Okay, Brown versus Board of Education. It was a Supreme Court decision that changed
So I'm
the
not saying
dynamic
that's not what we're
of the
talking
school
about.
system.
That's not what we're talking about. You've taken apples and thrown them over here in my bucket
No,
of
I'm saying
oranges.
in
No,
a
no, 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 no,
similar
no,
way,
no, no,
we
no, no,
should-
no, no, no. You can't. You can't. The ones who make the rules are the ones you're trying. It's like term limits. Everybody talks about term limits.
Yeah.
Who's going to vote themselves out of office, folks? That's my point. It's really, I'm not saying like kill your opinions and your views and your ideas. Like
No, but I
certainly
feel
don't
like
do
if
that.
Our brains are together.
Our
then we
brains
can come-
don't mean a pile of squat.
I feel like we have more influence than you think.
You are incorrect. And I love you for it, but you are incorrect. I wish that we did. You know what gives you influence? Money. Power.
Yeah, so if you have connections with lobbyists and people, which we do.
Oh,
and
yeah,
pe-
we
and
do. A
people-
lot of lobbyists up here in North Alabama. We just got
And-
running water and electricity
and
last week, folks, but we got lobbyists everywhere.
Senators and congressmen, if we know them,
I wish it
if
was
we
that
know
easy.
people that are involved in super PACs,
Here's
then
my
in
thing.
theory, we could have influence.
Here's my thing. I stay in my lane. I run my businesses, and I do the best I can not to piss everybody off, which we are effectively doing currently. Listen, folks, what is today? Wednesday? It is Wednesday. It's been another great afternoon with you guys. We've enjoyed every minute of it, whether you could tell it or not. You probably can because, after all, we're just some joyous people here. As we leave today, I want to leave you with this. Don't suck. Live your best life. Have a good day.
Sanitize.
Sanitize. But don't suck and live your best life and have a good day. Take it, Connor.